Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jennifer Sullivan, and I am the Principal Advisor of J. Sullivan Advisors. Thank you so much for joining us for today's Brain Break featuring Amanda Joyner. Our goal with this webinar series is to give you a little bit of a break, to help you just take 30 minutes of your day to sit back and relax a little bit. On today's call, we have a lot of meeting planners and we have some hoteliers, all of whom are givers. And we ask that you just turn it off for right now and let us give back to you. I am super excited about introducing Amanda Joyner, but first let me tell you a little bit about J. Sullivan Advisors. We are a boutique hotel consultancy offering business solutions to hospitality owners and full service meeting planning to meeting professionals. With meeting planning, we can help with any piece of the project, be it site selection, contract negotiation, website or an event registration development, to executing and being on site as additional staff, to the whole project. As I said, we can do anything that you need, the whole project or any piece of it. So I think there are two main things that make J. Sullivan Advisors different than other incentive houses or meeting planning companies. First, like other independent planners, we are high touch and low overhead. However, we're a team. There are 5 of us standing behind each person, collaborating on every project. So if your lead planner were to get sick or injured, you've got the peace of mind and the assurance that someone will always be there for you. The second thing that makes us really different, I'm super excited about, and at this point I could ask my teammates to turn on their cameras, it's the dynamic mix of our team. We are seasoned and savvy meeting professionals with Jana Stern and Sharon Chapman, both having over 25 years independently of each other together in the meeting planning industry. We are also luxury hotel professionals with Michelle Babin, Joanne Peart, Kelly Wood-Stalmer, and myself. As I said, we collaborate on all of our projects, bringing our strengths and our backgrounds to everything we do, from developing a sales training curriculum to creating memorable events. So it makes your event that much stronger. Together, we are strategists, we are relationship builders, and we are magic makers. We are each passionate about travel. We're passionate about so many things, and I'm having a mind break right now. We are passionate about travel. We are passionate about helping other people, be it your stakeholders, or your attendees, or you, and we are passionate about building loyalty through events. So I will send out an email tomorrow so that we can keep in touch, and then if there is a need or a time where you need to supplement your staff or provide more support for them, please think of J. Sullivan Advisors. We'd love to work with you. And now it is my great pleasure to introduce to you Amanda Joyner. Amanda is a dear friend. She has been with the Ritz-Carlton Hotel Company for over 25 years. She started in the housekeeping department and literally worked her way up on property and then onto the corporate offices as well. After being in corporate for a while, she realized that her passion was really working directly with the guests. So she came back on property, where she served most recently as the Ritz-Carlton's St. Louis General Manager. And Amanda was recognized recently as the General Manager of the Year for the Ritz-Carlton Hotel Company. So Amanda, if you want to turn your camera and your mic on and join us.
Absolutely.
Hello.
Good afternoon.
Thanks again for joining us. Wow, you are speaking novels with just your appearance and the mask. It's good to see this is being taken seriously.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me, Jennifer.
Of course.
So should I go ahead and share my screen?
Yes, please,
Great.
if you would.
So good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. How's that, Jen?
That's perfect. Thanks, Amanda.
Perfect. So good afternoon or good evening. It's a pleasure to be here today. So as Jennifer mentioned, I'm the general manager of this beloved hotel of mine, the Ritz-Carlton St. Louis. And I thought today I'd sort of couch this brain break as really leading through COVID. So much of what we all do, planners, hoteliers, ladies and gentlemen, right, is really identifying what our customers need and then creating a plan to execute against that need in the most anticipatory fashion possible. So really that's what managing in COVID is right now, anticipating, creating a plan, and executing through that need. And sorry, Jen, my screen's frozen.
That's all right. I was just going to say, Amanda has offered to answer questions at the end. So go ahead and use the chat function if you would, and then I will facilitate answering the questions, teeing them up for her to answer at the end. So thanks, Amanda.
Awesome. Thanks, John. Thanks. So really, what I'm going to talk about today is what is it like to be at an operating hotel? So many people are working remote at best. Maybe someone has gone out to a restaurant recently, but not very many people are traveling. So I thought it might be insightful to just sort of hear what it's like in that environment, and truly to talk about instilling a sense of confidence through our protocols. And then I am an open book. I'll answer anything you'd like to ask me. I'm happy to do that. So to clarify, we are open and operating. That may sound a little funny, but I can't tell you how many times I get asked that question. Sadly, we've all heard and read news reports about hundreds of hotels closing, either on a temporary basis or unfortunately on a permanent basis, and we are open. What certainly has not changed at my hotel is that we are ladies and gentlemen, serving ladies and gentlemen. So all of the wonderful things about our gold standards and this fine company that I work for have not changed. What has changed is we are more laser focused than we ever have been before on the safety and security, not only of our own ladies and gentlemen, but of our guests. And COVID has really had us challenge ourselves to fine tune what were existing protocols related to cleanliness and safety to really instill that confidence with our customers. But it's not all bad, right? We have a bright future. The hotel has gone through and is in the midst of a $26 million renovation on the heels of multiple renovation projects over the past 3 years. So in Q4 of this year, we will come out of the summer with a new 3-meal-a-day restaurant in partnership with a fine Italian off the Amalfi Coast, which remains a little secret, but a really new experience, a new luxury cigar club, and most importantly, we're excited about a new special event terrace that we think will be a really differentiating experience on the other side. So we're opening and operating, that is for sure. And we know that the needs of our guests are changing. And because of that, we're changing and have changed and continue to change. We're evolving. And we also know that confidence in the protocols that we put in place will create confidence in travel. And that's really what I hope to accomplish today, is to give you some confidence in what's happening on properties at hotels. And then if guests feel safe and comfortable, we know they'll come back. So I certainly am smart, but I can't take credit for this. So Ray Bennett, the Chief Global Officer for Global Operations for Marriott International, launched the Marriott Global Cleanliness Council. And in that, he really challenged the council to address new ways of cleaning, enhance technologies that would counter the impact of the virus spread, and also ensure that all hotels, all brands around the world appoints and implements a cleanliness champion. So this visual shares with you kind of high-level infographics, right? What the details are in unique spaces at all the hotels, and how our company and each of the individual properties are taking these strategies in these spaces adopting them and operationalizing them at each of our properties. And within all of these infographics, there are guiding principles. And I broke those down for you, trying to anticipate a day that may be upon you now or in the very near future where you're going to be planning a group of guests traveling or an event to take place. You could use this list of guiding principles really to go to any venue and ask questions to instill confidence in you about the protocols that are in place. So as I mentioned, we have a cleanliness champion on property who is really overseeing the adoption and auditing of all the standards we've put in place. We have a documented plan. As simple as that may sound, it's on paper. It evolves every day as public ordinances and executive orders from our county change. But we have taught, retaught, refreshed, and we repeat it again. Like so many of you know, when a change needs to occur, it takes a lot of repetition before it's kind of fully adopted and part of your standard operating procedure. So it sounds so simple and basic, but we need to use the right chemicals. We have for quite some time used these same chemicals. They're EPA approved, and they combat and disinfect against the virus. As you saw on my face, I not only lead by example, but I literally am in a PPE mask at all hours, regardless of what sort of setting that I'm in. The only time my ladies and gentlemen take off their PPE is when they're eating in the employee dining room. And even then, we have social distancing in that employee dining room. All hotels in the Americas do temperature checks. So before my ladies and gentlemen step onto the floor, their temperature is taken. And effective July 1, we are implementing health screening questions because my county, St. Louis County, is requiring health screening questions in addition to temperature checks. So health screening questions are not required, but we have adopted them so that we can have events happen at our facility. Hand washing stations, hand sanitizing station and wipe stations. I never thought I would talk about such sexy things to you, but they're everywhere. You cannot escape them. And at first, when you first see them when you're on property, it might feel a little surprising to walk into a Ritz-Carlton lobby where we were very careful about signage to then see an automatic hand sanitizing station. But I have to tell you, after talking to travelers that may stay at other hotels, it makes them feel comfortable. You can see the relief on their face when they walk up to the front desk and the eyes of the lady or gentleman are smiling through their mask, and they are protected. Other things to think about in these guiding principles are signage. It's everywhere to help remind everyone about what the protocols are. Single use, if I were to impart one thing to you, that's the way you need to think. Everything is used one time, and how do you change your protocols and processes so that everything is a single use mentality? We have protocols that are offering less contact and more connection, and I'll talk about that in just a minute. And then inside of our guest rooms, we also stock for our guests sanitizing wipes. So if the guests want to utilize them anywhere throughout the hotel, they can carry them with them and utilize those to keep themselves safe. So what has happened is all of these protocols are really in place, and then each property takes those and makes and implements their own individualized personal plan based upon public health ordinances in the county or city or state that they reside in. So at my hotel, it's 31 pages. These guiding principles I just talked about are really sprinkled throughout. They are just that, the essence of how we determine what's safe. And we audit ourselves every 30 days, and I personally certify that we're doing the things that we're talking about. So as I mentioned, I never thought I would be on a call with meeting planners sharing stickers and pictures. It's kind of funny. But the point is, when guests see things like these examples, and I'll walk you through them, it instills confidence. They are relieved to be in an environment where they can relax a bit because they feel it's safe. Is there such thing as 100% risk zone? No, unfortunately, not even in our own homes. But we know that the best way to protect ourselves is by social distancing. So you'll see here on the left is my fabulous front desk supervisor behind one of our front desk barriers that are in place. We have barriers and all different touch points throughout the hotel. That signage that I mentioned is sprinkled throughout. If there are events, it's all throughout the event space as well. And then on the right, we give you a little purview into what we're calling our pay station. So in our lobby lounge, after you have cocktails, so that you don't have to exchange credit cards, which are highly personalized, right? We have a pay station set up, so after the check's presented, guests can check themselves out. We are happy to take that guest credit card and process it, but 9 times out of 10, believe it or not, the guests want to do it themselves. So before guests come to the property through a pre-arrival process, I have a letter and I send them information about our protocols. Again, just to instill that confidence. So many guests want to know what to expect when they come on property. And this really helps. We also offer it at check-in if they'd like a copy. It's certainly not pushed upon them, but it's available to them if they want to use it as a resource. So I laughed when Jennifer and I talked about this presentation because, again, I never thought I would show pictures of these kinds of things, but I think it's important. The devil is in the details. And so guests at the Ritz-Carlton St. Louis and at Marriott International hotels all have taken these guiding principles and adopted them and localized them. And here's some examples, right? So if we go clockwise, you'll see an amenity box that's disinfected and sanitized. And then when the housekeeper's complete with it, 2 stickers are placed on it. So she knows that if those stickers, the seal is broken, she needs to disinfect the inside. Continuing around, you'll see glasses after they're taken out of the dishwasher and sanitized are wrapped and protected, so nothing falls on them. You know, they're not in the open air, if you will. If you continue on, again, just going in clockwise motion, our wine openers, we certainly have to have wine. Joanne Peart, I know you're laughing when I say that. We have to have wine, so our wine openers, they're disinfected and they're placed in a fresh bag so the guests can feel confident. We've removed ceramic things like mugs, etc., in our coffee station, so everything is single-use disposable. Same for that remote control. It's disinfected, and then it's placed in a remote control bag and sealed. Trash cans, sounds kind of crazy, but they're disinfected, new liners. And then you'll see in the bottom left, those robes are sanitized with bags. So I talked about those guiding principles, and so just a few more examples when you think about less contact and more connection. So some pull-throughs that would be available certainly to event attendees or families and the like is checking into the hotel without having to come to the front desk. So if guests are loyalty members or members of Marriott Bonvoy, you can actually check in and go to your room with a mobile key. So crazy, who would have ever thought that? But it's alive and well, and we do have guests that frequently ask about it. We have pay stations, so that credit cards, you know, one of the most personal things that's taken everywhere with you, are not exchanged in hands. We have contactless ID check-in. So we have trays where the guests place their items on the trays, we review it, and we don't touch it, they don't touch it. We do offer full in-room dining service. And what I mean by that is, you know, china, glass, silver. We will do to-go boxes if the guest wants it, but I've heard from countless customers how much they enjoy a real in-room dining experience. But when we deliver that order, we do knock on the door, step back 6 feet, and ask our guests their preference. And a little over 90% of the time, the guests opt to pull the card or the tray inside the room themselves. More deep cleaning and more frequency. Again, that cleaning champion, the right chemicals, disinfecting high touch points. We actually have a new position called a public stylist, who goes throughout all the public and heart of house areas of the hotel, disinfecting frequently used hard surfaces. And then single use, boy, that's it. Anything that you touch that's paper, once a guest touch it, it gets thrown away. So menus are single use, spa brochures, absolutely everything. Check presenters, once they're used, they go in a sanitized bin to be disinfected, and then they get put in the clean bin when we're ready to reuse them. So I would be remiss if I didn't touch on events just quickly. Events or intentional gatherings. Intentional gatherings are the way that in my area, St. Louis County, talks about events, meaning it's where a large amount of people are gathered because they were invited and they accepted that invitation and with intention are attending. Unlike I go to a restaurant and there happens to be 50 people in the restaurant and we happen to be there at the same time, right? So as you might imagine, I could probably spend 2 hours presenting to you on events and intentional gatherings, but really the guiding principles are the same, right? So we've taken those guiding principles and then operationalized them through the event execution. So social distancing requirements are executed throughout the entire meeting and event experience. We have protocols in place when you think about that single use and also controlling guest contact, right? So very thoughtful about how tables are to be set. What is the distance between attendees? What is the circumference distance around an attendee? That physical distancing requirement. Food service. If we have to do a buffet because that works for the customers, that a server attendant is limited by one person serving, so there's not multiple people touching utensils and the like. So our preference isn't buffets, although we've done them successfully. We instead take a buffet experience and offer it through a server attended buffet. Service delivery, the way our protocols are, every time we put down plates, get a new set of plates, gloves are changed, hands are sanitized. So as you might imagine, it's pretty in depth. And personal protective equipment, as I mentioned, it's part of our uniform. It's mandatory, it's a non-option. In St. Louis County, PPE is required if you're attending a banquet or a conference. I can't say that that is a requirement in all states and all counties. You would have to check the particulars with that. So if you are a guest that checks into my hotel, you are not required to wear a mask, although I must tell you most of mine do. But if you do attend an intentional gathering or an event, you're sitting in the ballroom, you will have your mask on until you sit and dine or sit at your learning environment station, and then you can take off your mask because there is that 6 foot of appropriate distancing all around you. And then execution of cleaning protocols, right? That's changed quite a bit in the event space. So we're cleaning everything after every use, chairs, tables, linens, underlays, all the way down. Hand sanitizing stations and wipe stations also throughout in any high traffic entrance areas, exit areas. And then of course we schedule that public stylist that I mentioned when we have events in-house to ensure that all those hard surfaces are on a rotating basis. So I'm gonna pause a little bit, because if this is the first time you're hearing these types of things, it can be a little daunting when you first start talking about implementing these guidelines. It's like, oh my goodness, where does it stop and where does it end? But once you understand the guiding principles, it's pretty easy to break down what your guests may need and come up with a good executable plan with your meetings special events manager to really make a successful event. So I know I've been doing a lot of talking, Jennifer. I'm more than happy. I have no idea if anyone's ask questions. I'm going to stop sharing my screen for just a moment.
Thank you, Amanda. That was just a tremendous amount of information to share with us. You know,
I know.
our goal with my goal with having Amanda on was telling people what it's like to be on property. You know, for many of us, this is the longest period of time we have not been in a hotel in our professional careers. So we don't know what it looks like. So thank you for painting a very, very detailed picture of what we can expect. My hope with Amanda's presentation is to equip our planner partners with information that you can go back to your stakeholders with to help instill the confidence that Amanda was speaking about. You know, that's why I felt it was really important to show that not sexy picture of the remote control in the plastics slipcover, because again, that's the kind of detail and level of anticipating clients' needs that will instill confidence. So I do hope that we've given you guys some tools that you can take back and help people feel more comfortable with coming back into the hotels. So
I appreciate that, Jen. I was going to say, you know, in light of also, there's always news reports about cleanliness standards. There was recently a broadcast on Sunday about this. And, you know, it is about instilling confidence. I think if you see a guest check into the hotel and they're going to stay for 2 nights and they end up extending for 2 more nights, is when it really cements that you know that they feel comfortable and confident. I talk to guests every day, and we're not perfect. You know, the hand sanitizing station could be out for 20 minutes with cleaner, right? It's the thing that keeps me up at night. But it is about showing practically these guests that we can, to the best of our ability, progress through life and take one step forward and to opening up our business a little bit so that people can travel and get out and understand what experience to expect, which is what I think is important, is understanding what to expect.
I agree. To that point, Amanda, I found it interesting that you're actually sending a document out to your guests prior to arrival. Is that, I'm putting you on the spot because I've not asked you that just yet, but is that something you could share with us?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Absolutely. And it really is, so we're in the process right now of changing our formal pre-arrival email, which is a little bit more of a template, but we get calls all day long where guests say, you know, I'm due to arrive in a week or tomorrow, and I really like to know what you're doing. And so we send that out to them proactively. And then there's lots of guests that don't call us or don't email. And at check-in, we will offer it, and it's printed and it's available. So yeah, I'm happy to share. Delighted.
Thank you. I'll attach that to the email that I send out tomorrow. We do have some questions here, so let me get to that. Let's see. Can buffet service be done with stations and small plates so people are not using utensils as much, but it would, sorry,
no, it's okay.
But it would require multiple trips to the food stations?
Yeah, I think the simple answer to that is yes, all the way around. So I think when we say we don't prefer buffets, it's to plant the seed that a buffet may not look like a double-sided line of people, right? Without question, action stations are the way to go to be able to have an engaging experience. We just want that one person or 2 people, people who we've taken their temperature, we know they're sanitized, we know they have the proper PPE on, are actually either plating or serving or handing to you whatever the offering may be. Very much like a bartending service, that kind of thing. So yes, absolutely. We did an event on Saturday where we had normal, you know, butler passed appetizers, like the thing that you do every day without even thinking in the meeting planning world. And they were beautifully presented, and we had, you know, plates, and the guest, you know, told us what they wanted, and then we placed it on their plate, and we had a couple of servers doing that. So still individual portions, but really placed intentionally on the plate versus just around the room.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Another question. I'm curious about what the increased cost of service is when staff have to take so many more steps in order to provide the same service they had done before so much more easily. Does this mean increased pricing for customers as this becomes the new normal?
Yeah, it's a good question. So, we're not charging more because we need to clean differently, or if I have to have more servers working in a room, that's what you're paying for. You're paying for a clean, safe environment. So, we're not charging extra to be COVID compliant. No, I would imagine, easily discounting a blanket 20%. That might change a little bit. So we have to be thoughtful about that. But no, I think what's important is that the food experience that planners are selecting and meetings and special events would partner with you are interesting presentations that can be executed. I think that's what's important. And a really elaborate salad may not be something that we're offering because it doesn't translate well in this environment. So I think money will be spent differently, not necessarily more or less. But as we evolve, I think it's important to understand that from the planner's perspective. We're already hearing things like, what is sponsorship? What does that look like? And the easy low-hanging fruit are masks, PPEs, hand sanitizers, all those kind of things that's already happening. But we're even, talking about, so the caps on the preset waters for a banquet event are logoed. Just interesting ways to try to thank our partners and the people that sponsor our events to be recognized in the way that they should.
Very creative. Excellent. Okay, we're still getting more questions in. This is excellent. Sure. You had shared before we went live that you're actually hosting a 400-person wedding in August.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. And love hearing that people are meeting again. I think that's what we all want to hear. How are you planning to enforce protocols for such a large, intimate event?
Yeah, it's such a great question. Yeah, we're very excited about it. So as I mentioned, signage is critical and key. It will be throughout the spaces. We expect that if there is a county public safety ordinance, that attendees will abide by that. We are still working through, I will not put my own ladies and gentlemen in a position where they're not safe. So as attendees come into an event, right, they're asked to wear their mask because that is what public health authorities are requesting in St. Louis County. But then once they're sitting at their seats and they're eating and dining, that's not required. So at a 72-inch round in our county, that would be 6 guests at that table. What we think is going to be really fun and interesting to work through is dancing. We've had a lot of conversation about, do we put barriers on the dance floor or do we not? I imagine there'll be lots of dancing at rounds at their stations and that type of thing. So we have adopted some best practices from other hotels where we're recommending that potentially throughout an evening there might be reminders to attendees about social distancing, that type of thing. Once a guest gets up from their table and they actually leave the meeting room, we will ask them to put on their face mask. If they're interacting with other guests at the hotel, once they leave their assigned meeting room, we would ask them to put on their PPE because it is required by the county. So we're here to really pull through what the county's asking of us to keep everybody safe.
Got it. Thank you. So this next question has multiple parts to it. I'll read through it all once and then we'll come back and do each part.
Sure.
Do you have protocols in place should a COVID case become active during a program? Is the guest quarantined for 14 days in your hotel? Is your next group notified that the case has occurred? How would this be handled?
Yeah, certainly. So we do have protocols in place. We have not had we've had no positive cases in the hotels. So let me pause there for a moment. But there are protocols in place. So we don't quarantine the guest quarantines themselves. And then we have protocols on how to take care of that guest in terms of servicing them, which quite frankly, the easy answer is we don't service them. We provide them with the linens, and we provide them with a trash opportunity, and it's handled like a biohazard material is handled. But we have a protocol in which we let our risk management organization know that we have a potential case, and then we assist that guest depending on the situation, right, if they're going to get tested. But if they're in quarantine, they're not leaving until the quarantining period is over.
Not a bad place to be in quarantine, however.
Yeah.
Another question is, do you have to provide security in case someone does not want to comply with your policies regarding face masks or distancing?
It's not part of the county requirement, so I think the answer is no. I think we're here to execute the wishes and needs of the family or planner. When it becomes critical is when the attendees leave the event room that they're assigned to. Once they leave that event room and they are, going to the restroom or in the pre-function area or interacting with other guests, and they're stepping out of their intentional gathering room, then we would ask them to put on their PPE.
Got it. Thank you.
Sure.
We are committed to keeping these brief and honoring your time. We've already gone over by several minutes because of the great questions. And Amanda, we thank you for giving your time so generously. So I will, as I said, follow up tomorrow. I'll send out Amanda's pre-arrival documents. If there's anything else that you'd like to see from Amanda for her deck or anything like that, just let me know. We can certainly talk about that. And we sincerely appreciate, again, Amanda, you sharing your expertise with us. Your passion for the brand is amazing, your enthusiasm, and we thank all of the attendees for giving us your time this afternoon. We hope that everyone stays safe and that you'll be able to join us next week. We are changing it up again next week. We try to vary our topics so that they're inspirational, educational, have motivational speakers as well as industry experts. And next week we have a fascinating woman, Marguerite Chadwick, is going to be joining us. She is an energy medicine practitioner, talking about how to keep ourselves positive and use this time that we've been given to focus on taking care of ourselves. The old cliche about, putting on your own air mask first. You have to do that before you can take care of others is really true now more than ever, and we've got the time. So she's got some practical advice on how we can do that. So that'll be next Thursday, and I will send out an invitation, and we look forward to seeing many of you again then. Until then, be safe, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you.